Okay, today we're going over every team's most disappointing player so far this season. If you haven't already, check out the previous video where I talk about every NBA team's most surprising player. We're starting with the Eastern Conference, going by record. So the first team, Milwaukee Bucks, their most disappointing player is Ersan Ilyasova. He's just not shooting the ball well. In the big picture, I don't think it's a big deal. The Bucks this season have more depth at the backup big position, most specifically with Robin Lopez there. So I don't really see this as a big issue moving forward. For the Boston Celtics, their most disappointing player is Enes Kanter. Now I understand that Enes Kanter dealt with a knee issue early in this season. He's still a good rebounder, but on this Celtics team with the type of switch heavy defense they want to play, Kanter is justifiably losing his starting role to Daniel Theis. For the Miami Heat, their most disappointing player, James Johnson. He's just not playing at this point. He's getting DNPs and he makes $15 million a year. Based on what I can see, it's just his age. He's 32, and with that, his decline in athleticism, which he relied a lot on. I think at this point, you can expect James Johnson to retire once his contract is up. The Toronto Raptors have had a surprisingly good season, so it's not a lot of disappointing players. The closest one for me is Rondae Hollis-Jefferson. Now, I understand this is not entirely fair because Hollis-Jefferson has sort of found his role within this Raptors team, so it's not like he's a detriment to the team. But just for me, I had, moderately high hopes for Hollis-Jefferson because he's so gifted athletically. And the problem is he's just the same player today as he was when he came into the league. This is now his 5th season in the NBA. He still can't shoot. I'm just a little bit disappointed that he's turned into like Tony Allen. For the Philadelphia 76ers, a lot of people here would say Ben Simmons. I think that's completely fair. I'm gonna have to go with Joel Embiid. I expect Embiid to be the best center in the league. I think Embiid has proven that when he's on his game, he is the best center in the league. And he just hasn't been that guy this season. He seems too comfortable settling for jumpers. He's not as aggressive in the post as he was the last couple of years. The Sixers have a lot of problems on offense that feed into each other. So I do think that there's a chance as the season goes on, if they figure this thing out, everybody, including Ben Simmons and Embiid and Tobias Harris, will start playing better. For the Indiana Pacers, Miles Turner. He's been great defensively, but not offensively. 11 points per game, 43% from the field. I'm not sure exactly what his role is on offense anymore. The most discouraging sign about Miles Turner on offense is that Miles Turner has trouble posting up against smaller players. We're talking small forwards and sometimes guards. And maybe it's because of a lack of size, lack of confidence, lack of skill, lack of footwork. He can't seem to take advantage of smaller players in the post, which is disappointing for a 7-footer. For the Brooklyn Nets, Rodions Kurucs. Last season looked like Kurucs was a legitimate rotation player. He looked really polished for a 20-year-old. And this season, he's just not playing much anymore. He's getting beat by Musa in the rotation. For the Orlando Magic, it's a pretty easy choice, Aaron Gordon. I recently did a video on 5 trade ideas for the Orlando Magic, so go check that out if you want to know more about how awful Aaron Gordon has been this season. For the Detroit Pistons, unfortunately, there's no hope left for Thon Maker. I think most people had already given up on him by last year. Now the good thing is the Pistons have Christian Wood, who's been playing lights out for them at the backup center and backup power forward position, because Maker is probably going to be out of the league next year. For the Charlotte Hornets, their most disappointing player, Dwayne Bacon. Last season, Dwayne Bacon had some really good games. He looked like he could be a solid 3-and-D player in this league, and this season, with so much opportunity to shine, he's just been awful. He can't seem to do anything well. He can't shoot, he can't drive, he can't hit free throws. I just don't know what's going on with Bacon. The Chicago Bulls, easy choice here, Lauri Markkanen. Again, I don't know what's going on. Based on what I can tell, it doesn't seem like anyone knows what's going on with Lauri Markkanen. Somehow he lost his confidence. Last season, Markkanen could drive to the rim, he posted up against smaller players, he faced up against centers. This season, he seems content just sitting on the three-point line and shooting threes, and he's not shooting a high percentage either. My expectations for most guys on the Washington Wizards were pretty low heading into this season, so actually there's nobody that's really disappointed me. I would say I am disappointed that Thomas Bryant isn't as good defensively as he can be, or he should be. It's a big reason why the Washington Wizards have the league's worst defense as we currently speak. For the Cleveland Cavaliers, their most disappointing player has to be Darius Garland. He can shoot the ball, but he can't do anything else. He can't drive, he looks helplessly undersized on the court, and it doesn't help that he has to play alongside Colin Sexton, the NBA's #1 ball hog. Look, the Cavs took him with the 5th pick, and so far, Rui Hachimura, Kobe White, Jackson Hayes, PJ Washington, Tyler Hero, Brendan Clark, Eric Paschall, they all look like much better picks. This may be one that the Cavs regret deeply. Moving on to the Atlanta Hawks. Can I be disappointed in John Collins using steroids? I mean, come on. Dude, you're 22 years old. At least have the decency to wait till you're 30 until you start roiding it up. This is not the time where you should be using PEDs. Anyways, I'm not really disappointed in anyone on the Hawks because I didn't really have high expectations for anyone outside of Trae Young. I guess Alex Len is probably disappointed with himself. He said before the season he thinks he can be an all-star, and yeah, I mean, this season he's losing his minutes to Damian Jones. Reality can be very cruel. For the New York Knicks, their most disappointing player, I'm just gonna put up the entire team except for Marcus Morris. And I'll give RJ Barrett a pass because he's a rookie. I mean, this team is so dysfunctional and poorly built that I don't think it's fair to judge any individual player until we see them in a different situation. Now shifting to the Western Conference, starting at the top with the Los Angeles Lakers, I'm a bit disappointed in Kyle Kuzma. He's had some really good games and he's had some really bad games. Again, his rookie year, he was on a garbage team and he looked great because he had a lot of freedom offensively. There's a legitimate question to be asked. What is Kuzma's role on a championship team like this one? Can he fit in with other stars? And when he isn't scoring, what exactly does he give you? Dallas Mavericks, their most disappointing player, I think you'd have to say Kristaps Porzingis. The spacing he provides should not go understated. He's a big reason why the Mavs offense made a jump from below league average to #1 in the league. But he didn't get a $158 million contract to be Ryan Anderson on offense. He can't seem to beat people off the dribble like he could in New York. He just looks slower. He doesn't look like he can jump as well. It looks like the injury is still holding him back, and it may be just a mental thing where he doesn't completely trust his body yet. I said in my last video that for the LA Clippers, I wasn't really surprised or disappointed by anyone this season. I am, however, concerned about Kawhi's health because clearly there is something going on. There's something wrong. I mean, for most of the time, he moves around like he's 35 years old. Now, he can still turn it up in crunch time and hopefully come playoff time. But can Kawhi handle another extended playoff run with whatever injury he's got going on? For the Houston Rockets, I hate to say it, he had a good 5 games to start the season. But Russell Westbrook, again, he's had a lot of great moments. He's just had more bad moments. And his shooting efficiency continues to decline. The thing that bothers me the most, and this is what I touched upon in my video, I don't understand why Westbrook continues to shoot these mid-range jumpers, especially in Houston's offense. I mean, at what point do you develop self-awareness as a player and say, okay, this is just not something I'm good at? Ugh, I can't believe I was dumb enough to make a video talking about Westbrook being a good NBA player. My heart is broken, Westbrook, I gave you a chance! Okay, let's move on to the Denver Nuggets, their most disappointing player, Nikola Jokic. Just get in shape, dude. That's all I have to say. For the Utah Jazz, easy choice here. It's Mike Conley. He looks like he's got no explosion left. He can't finish around the rim. His floater game that has always worked for him isn't working for whatever reason. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, Noah Vonleh. When he came into the league, I thought he could actually be like a Chris Bosh type of player. And I like him so much that even just a year ago, I thought that I thought that Noah Vonleh still has all-star potential. He played really, really well in New York. This season, it just doesn't look like he's really that good when you put him on an actually decent team. The Phoenix Suns, nobody's really disappointed me. Frank Kaminsky isn't shooting the ball well, but I'm pretty confident he'll get a shot back eventually. OKC, their most disappointing player, I'm gonna go with Steven Adams. There are times this season when Nerlens Noel has just looked like a better player. For Steven Adams, he's basically hit a ceiling. He's only 26, but in today's NBA, there are very few centers that can be great offensively. I definitely think Adams is someone OKC is looking to trade, and he's still a really, really good center if you have enough offensive weapons around him. And for that reason, there are a couple of teams that should be interested in him. The San Antonio Spurs, their most disappointing player, DeMarre Carroll. The Spurs gave him a 2-year, $13 million contract this summer, which is, for example, more than what the Nets gave to Garrett Temple, and Carroll has just been a non-factor for the Spurs. He averages 11 minutes per game, and he has a lot of DMPs. It's been very disappointing. For the Portland Trail Blazers, their most disappointing player, Kent Bazemore. He just hasn't been very good. He doesn't get to the rim anymore. At 30 years old, he's lost a lot of the athleticism he used to have in Atlanta and Golden State, and defensively, he isn't as good as Harkless or Aminu. It's one of the reasons why the Blazers have a bottom 10 defense in the league. The Sacramento Kings gave Trevor Ariza 2 years, $25 million. It just looks like an awful contract. I mean, Ariza's done. He's really old, but he's done. When his contract is up 2 seasons from now, he's gonna retire. Unfortunately, the Kings still have to play him because they have no other backup small forward. Moving on to the Memphis Grizzlies. I'm a little bit disappointed by Jaren Jackson Jr. My expectations for him were sky high. I had him as my top pick for most improved player, and he's clearly not even in that conversation right now. Moving on to the New Orleans Pelicans. Derek Favors has been the most disappointing player so far this season. He's been in and out of the lineup. I did some research. There's some lingering injury issue with him that dates back to his days with the Utah Jazz. I don't know exactly what's going on, but if he's on the court, I'm assuming he's relatively healthy. This is early in the regular season. You're not fighting for playoff spots or anything. So I assume you wouldn't play him unless he was healthy. And when he's on the court, I mean, he looks like Bismack Biyombo. He's just not moving very well. For the Golden State Warriors, their whole season went down the tank, like 5 games into the season. So at this point, all the guys they're playing, I didn't really have any expectations for, so I can't say anyone's really disappointed me. Okay, well that's it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.